So for those of you that have paid real close attention to small college basketball as an organization, you might have noticed something. And that something was this, that last year, this time with this event, we surprised Larry Smith with the creation of the Larry Smith Award. But you might have noticed that we've never announced a winner of the Larry Smith Award. We were planning to do that this past April or May until we realized, as Larry and I worked through the nominations that literally came from all over America, that the winner was going to be here with us tonight. So we decided the element of surprise is a little fun like it was last year. So the winner has no idea. But let me refresh a little bit in terms of what the Larry Smith Award is, what the purpose of it is. Larry is the embodiment of using the ball. You see, when I went to camp when I was a kid, I remember them holding up a ball and them saying, learn to use the ball, don't let the ball use you. Learn to use the ball, don't let the ball use you. See, Larry took advantage of his opportunity through basketball, and he applied the life lessons he learned, and he worked his way out of poverty, and ultimately changed his life. Because of his wild success, he's changed the lives of his children and his grandchildren and generations of his family to come. Larry attended college at Suffolk University in Boston solely because he earned a basketball scholarship. You see, there was no way that he could afford to go to college without a scholarship. Frankly, he was poor. He was very poor. Yet Larry listened to his coaches and his professors. He applied what he learned, and he worked very hard for a long period of time, year after year after year. He and his brother Michael, after they learned the lessons through Suffolk University, started an insurance company. Well, to say that that was a success might be an understatement. It became a wild success, to say the least. Now Larry and his brother are the largest donors back to Suffolk University. They've contributed significantly to Lynn University. They've created scholarships for students in Israel to go to college. He remembered where he came from, and now he funds a scholarship from his high school, Chelsea High School, to Suffolk University, so that another student can have the opportunity that he had. Last year, as I mentioned, we surprised him by announcing the creation of the Larry Smith Award, and the award then is presented annually to a former small college basketball player who has used the game of basketball and to learn to apply the life lessons that they've significantly enhanced their life and then turned around and given back to make a significant impact on the lives of others and to change the world for good. Nominations were submitted from all over the country, literally from Massachusetts to Florida, Montana to Kentucky, Pennsylvania to Indiana, and more. As I mentioned, we were planning to present this in April or May, but since we knew that person was going to be here with us this evening, we decided to wait till now to provide that element of surprise. And now to announce the winner of the inaugural Larry Smith Award, I'd like to bring onto stage Larry Smith himself, along with his longtime friend and the athletic director emeritus from Suffolk University, Jim Nelson.
Good evening to you all. This is Larry Smith. I'm Jim Nelson, the Emeritus Director of Athletics at Suffolk University, and certainly I'm honored to play a role in the presentation of the inaugural Larry Smith Award, which now and in the future years, similar to Larry, will recognize an individual who has utilized the game of basketball and its life lessons to promote a better society and opportunity for others in need. Our award winner and Larry Smith have taken, in so many regards, parallel paths in their journey from humble beginnings, with one born and raised in hardscrabble Chelsea, Massachusetts, just across the Boston Harbor from downtown Boston, and the other a mile away from downtown Louisville in equally impoverished Smoketown. Certainly we are aware of the mid-1960s, as has been mentioned, and the incredible success of Kentucky Wesleyan basketball and those championships of 1966, 1968, and 1969. They lost that 1967 tournament because of the absence of one player, whom you just witnessed speaking, and I guess also because Earl the Pearl Monroe was on that Winston-Salem team, one of our inductees from last year. Our two-time All-American selection of 68 and 69 and named Outstanding Player in the 1969 championship, George Tinsley, as was mentioned, was drafted both by the NBA and also by the ABA. After his professional career, he did return to his high school alma mater, Male High School in Louisville, to be a teacher and a coach. Destiny arrived in 1972 when Louisville-based Kentucky Fried Chicken and the Colonel, Harlan Sanders, were looking for a training director. George would spend 8 years with KFC before moving into the franchisee side and his own KFC with his wife, Sarita. And they had their very first store, which shortly thereafter burned down. But that did not discourage them, as they rebuilt that store and tripled their clientele and their profits. George ultimately in 1989 was named KFC's premier operator, the highest recognition presented to franchisees. And now the Tinsley Foundation has, over 75 units of street and airport locations anchored by KFC, Wendy's, Chili's, P.F. Chang, and TGIF Fridays. Their brands dominate airport locations in Louisville, Tampa, and Miami under the umbrella of Pengeo, a combination, as was mentioned, of their two children, Penny and George, who are the next generation to follow in the legacy of Mom and Dad. But let me back up, and George has already referenced this. When I am teaching my course on the history of sport and the Olympic Games at Suffolk University, one of the first things that I ask my class to do is, if you had the opportunity to speak to 3 people, living or deceased, who would those people be? And to start that conversation, I mentioned my own choices, one being James Naismith, who in 1891 invented this great game that has brought us here this evening to celebrate our incredible inductees. A second would be Jesus Christ. As a long-time practicing Roman Catholic and Christian, it would be quite interesting to have that conversation. And now I have a third individual whose name is Willie Tinsley. As George mentioned, when his birth mother was unable to care for George at 6 months of age, a most remarkable woman stepped forward. 65 years of age, in a wheelchair with one leg, and a $65 Social Security check. This woman did remarkable things. When Mrs. Tinsley died when George was but 13, as George mentioned, her oldest son, also adopted, helped to support and give support to George, as did teachers, coaches, and other members in the Louisville section of Smoketown. Yes, he played for Male High School and did return there. And in his senior year, Kentucky Wesleyan's head coach, Guy Strong, offered him a basketball scholarship. And George certainly took full advantage of his time at Kentucky Wesleyan. both as on the basketball court and as a student athlete, winning the prestigious Oak and Ivy Award for academic achievement and student leadership from the college. And certainly not to be omitted, later on, Saritha, you won induction into that Oak and Ivy as well. George was called the king of the campus, and I suspect you were the queen of the campus. George has served on the board of the National Basketball Association Retired Players Association as its president, treasurer, and past president. He was named Florida's Minority Interpreter of the Year in 1989, inducted into the Louisville Male High School Hall of Fame in 1986. He was Winter Haven Businessman of the Year. He was inducted into both the Kentucky Wesleyan Alumni Hall of Fame and their inaugural Athletic Hall of Fame. Also the Black Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame and the State of Kentucky Hall of Fame, and now the Small College Basketball Hall of Fame. On May 16, 2009, George was awarded an honorary degree by his alma mater, Doctor of Humanities, while giving the commencement address. And again, I would also be remiss to mention that, George, you are not the only doctor in your home. For Saritha, you have also been recognized by Weber's International University in Florida with your own honorary degree. George's words at the commencement are as relevant today as they were when he told the graduating class and all others in attendance, parents, grandparents, professors, administrators, deans, and trustees, life can be unfair, put stumbling blocks in your path, and disappoint you to the point of tears. Nonetheless, if you maintain an abiding faith, have confidence in yourself, and remain positive, you can and will meet all of life's challenges and find success and fulfillment along the way. George Tinsley has not only spoken these words, he has walked the walk and provided a path for countless others to follow in his footsteps.
George Tinsley he's an unbelievable person. You have to understand, he grew up in the toughest neighborhood in Louisville, in Smoketown, and being a fellow Louisville native, I know the struggles that he went through as a kid, but he had so many people looking out for him.
George Tinsley was raised by a loving grandmother in Louisville, and he decided early on in his life that the streets were not for him. He decided he wanted to pursue other areas, and he learned that he could excel in sports. George was outstanding on the track and field level in high school, and also on the basketball court.
My mother left me with a babysitter at 7 months old. She went off to get a job. I had two sisters. They were in a Catholic church home, and then and I had an older brother who his father had come to get him early on. And so the babysitter, who was 65 years old, her name was Willie Tinsley. My name was George Pennebaker. It's P-E-N-E-B-A-K-E-R. And so the lady was 65 years old. She had a Social Security check she received, and she kept other children. So my mother never came back.
George Tinsley is just one of those rare people who sets the bar in just about everything he does. And his time at Kentucky Wesleyan actually was groundbreaking. He came along at a time when a lot of African-American athletes were not being recruited in basketball and other sports. And George Tinsley came here, a very humble man of modest means.
Had a great career in high school, and then the opportunity came to get a scholarship at Kentucky Wesleyan. Coach Guy Strong offered me a four-year scholarship. I'd gone to Western Kentucky and several other schools to visit, but they were all talking two-year scholarships, Austin Peay and Davidson College, and so forth. So I chose Kentucky Wesleyan because Guy Strong had been a coach at Male, and Dallas, who was my teammate, who was a year ahead of me, he was already down at Wesleyan. So that made it a little bit easier to make that choice. Plus, we took a couple of other guys that were in the surrounding area that went down to Wesleyan also. So once getting there and getting into the program, getting that rolling, the rest was history.
George was recruited primarily in his first year to be a defensive specialist. But over 4 years at Kentucky Wesleyan, George excelled on the basketball court. He became an All-American in 4 years at KWC, scoring over 2,000 points, outstanding rebounder. He was a first-team All-American in his senior year, MVP of the National Championship Tournament. And an interesting point about George Tinsley as an athlete, on the basketball court, each of the 4 years, he won the last game he played in as an NCAA tournament representative.
Wesleyan made a man out of me. When I came in, I was a young boy who was just getting out of Louisville and coming to Wesleyan, traveling around the world, being here and getting an education and meeting new people in the Owensboro community that reached out to me, and I was able to give back. It holds a special place in my heart.
Of course, we all know what he did on the floor, the All-American Awards, the championships, but George Tinsley also did something else here, and that was he developed as a person. And what he did after leaving Kentucky Wesleyan College and what he has done over the years is extraordinary.
I decided to start looking. The FBI came along, offered me an opportunity to be an agent. I took it, but before I actually signing the dotted line to go to Quantico, I got an offer from KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, to be a training instructor because of my teaching background, living there in Louisville, where the corporate office was. So I started working with KFC as a training instructor, working with the colonel himself. Didn't have any business background, but because of my skill set that I learned teaching and coaching and at Wesleyan, playing and on teams and so forth, I learned as I was learning from the students, the different managers and owners that were coming in. I learned the business concept and how it worked, and I actually went out and worked in some of their restaurants to learn myself. First opportunity I got, I was in a meeting one time, and we were just having a big meeting about franchising, and one of the vice presidents said, George, you ought to think about this franchising. This was when most of the corporations were looking at franchising to minorities. And later on, I had that opportunity in Central Florida, Arbondale, Florida, where we started our first restaurant. That was about 35 years ago, and so that's what we've been doing ever since.
I've never been around George Tinsley when he wasn't positive, when he wasn't optimistic about where things were going for him and for other people, more importantly. And I've never been around George Tinsley when I didn't feel better about what I was doing, and I never walked away from a conversation with George Tinsley where I didn't learn something.
I think that I want to be remembered as someone who tried to set a high standard and let people know that you can succeed with morals, in doing things the right way, and still succeed. And it's not a quick road to get there, that you work hard, stay focused, stay positive, stay away from the negative, stay away from people that'll pull you down, surround yourself with people that are going in the same direction or higher. So I like to be remembered as someone that has set a standard and gives back, and so try to pass that on to our employees, through family members, and so forth.
Please welcome back to the stage the 2017 inaugural winner of the Larry Smith Award, George Tinsley. time, I'd like to call up to the podium the president of Kentucky Wesleyan, President Bart Darrell. And George, you're going to return to the microphone for a few words for us all. Thank you. Larry is donating a check for $5,000 to Kentucky Wesleyan College to be used to continue the good work so that George does to this very day. Thank you very much, Larry.
Well, this comes as a total shock and surprise. You got me, and I just don't know what to say other than thank you. I'm honored from the bottom of my heart. I know my family feels the same way. You know, when you work hard and you keep pushing forward and you take people with you to be successful, you know, good things happen in life, and there's no way that I could ever have envisioned receiving the Larry Smith Award and what it stands for, and playing it forward. Thank you for the donation to the college. It's going to help some young person achieve and be a better person in life and give back at some point in their life. So, but thank you. It's been an awesome day. Thank you again.